The demon was picking its teeth with a human femur when I walked into containment cell 7 with breakfast. "Morning, Belphegor," I said, setting the steel tray on the feeding slot mechanism. "How'd you sleep?" "I don't sleep, Vincent." The demon's voice sounded like a diesel engine turning over on a cold morning. "I contemplate the 17 different ways I'm going to disembowel you when these chains fail." 18, I corrected, sliding the tray through the reinforced slot. "You forgot about the thing with the garden shears." Belphegor laughed, a sound like grinding metal. He was 12 feet tall with skin that looked like old leather and arms long enough to touch his ankles without bending over. The chains holding him were blessed steel, each link inscribed with prayers in languages that predated Latin. I'd been feeding the Vatican's demons for 3 years now. Before that, I was a short-order cook in Buffalo. Turns out those skills transfer better than you'd think. "What's for breakfast?" Belphegor asked, examining the tray. "Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice. Same as always." "No meat?" "You know the rules." The Vatican keeps exactly 47 demons chained in the sub-basement of a building that doesn't appear on any official maps. I feed 23 of them. My counterpart, Sister Catherine, feeds the other 24. We work opposite shifts to ensure continuous coverage. The rules are simple. Rule 1, never feed them meat. Rule 2, never make eye contact for longer than 3 seconds. Rule 3, never enter a cell, even if the demon appears unconscious. Rule 4, never get closer than 10 feet to the cell bars. Rule 5, if a demon breaks free, hit the emergency button and run. "These eggs taste like cardboard," Belphegor complained. "That's because they are cardboard, with yellow food coloring." "Why cardboard?" "Because real eggs make you stronger. We're not trying to make you stronger." Belphegor nodded appreciatively. "I respect the honesty. Most of your predecessors tried to convince us the fake food was for our own good." "How many predecessors have I had?" 7. 8 if you count the one who lasted only 2 days. "What happened to them?" "Various things. Heart attacks mostly. Nerves couldn't handle the work. One had a complete breakdown after Asmodeus learned his daughter's name." I made a mental note to review my personal information security. Again. "Any of them get eaten?" "Only one. Brother Francis got too close to Mammon's cell during feeding time. Mammon grabbed him through the bars and bit his head off before Francis could reach the emergency button." "How long ago was that?" 1974. I finished my rounds on level 7 and took the elevator down to level 8. The demons got progressively more dangerous the deeper you went. Level 7 housed the relatively harmless ones. Minor devils who'd been caught possessing politicians or middle management types. Level 8 contained the heavy hitters. Cell 81 held Andromalius, a Duke of Hell who looked like a businessman, wearing another businessman's skin. Cell 82 contained Gremory, who appeared as a beautiful woman until you made eye contact and saw that her pupils were doorways to somewhere you didn't want to go. Cell 83 housed Vapula, my personal favorite. "Good morning, Professor," I said, approaching his cell. Vapula looked up from the book he was reading. He appeared as a middle-aged man in a tweed jacket, the kind of professor who smoked a pipe and had strong opinions about the decline of classical education. "Ah, Vincent, punctual as always." Vapula marked his place in the book and approached the feeding slot. "What culinary delights have you prepared for me today?" "Oatmeal, dry toast, black coffee." "Splendid. And how are you feeling about your situation?" This was Vapula's thing. He was a demon of knowledge, specifically academic knowledge. He couldn't help but try to educate people, even people who were feeding him fake food in a basement prison. Same as yesterday. Confused about why the Vatican needs to keep demons fed at all. An excellent question. Have you considered the implications of demonic metabolism? Not really. Vapula accepted his tray and sat down at the small table in his cell. Unlike the other demons, he ate with proper silverware and maintained impeccable table manners. Demons require sustenance to maintain corporeal form, he explained between bites of oatmeal. Without regular feeding, we begin to fade back to our native realm. The Vatican discovered this quite by accident in the 15th century. So they keep you fed to keep you here. Precisely. A faded demon cannot be interrogated, studied, or used for research purposes. We are considerably more valuable as prisoners than as escapees. What kind of research? Vapula smiled. His teeth were perfectly white and human-looking, which somehow made them more unsettling than fangs would have been. That, my dear Vincent, is above your security clearance. I left Vapula to his breakfast and continued down level 8. Sister Catherine and I had developed an efficient routine over the years. She handled the talkers, demons who tried to manipulate their feeders through conversation. I handled the violent ones who preferred direct intimidation. Cell 87 contained Marcosius, who looked like a wolf standing upright. She'd been captured in 1962 after possessing an entire seminary in Dublin. The exorcism had taken 3 months and left 2 priests permanently insane. "Morning, Marcosius," I said, sliding her tray through the slot. Marcosius sniffed the air and growled. "The nun was here earlier. Sister Catherine works the early shift. She smells like fear and frankincense. You smell like cigarettes and resignation. Thanks for the personal assessment. I could teach you things, human. About power. About taking what you want instead of serving others. Not interested." Marcosius circled her cell like a caged animal, which was essentially what she was. 37 years I've been chained here. 37 years of porridge and promises that cooperation will reduce my sentence. Any chance of early release? None. The Vatican doesn't release demons. They study us until we're no longer useful, then they perform a final exorcism. Final exorcism? Complete spiritual destruction. Not banishment back to hell, but total annihilation. We cease to exist entirely. I'd suspected something like this, but had never had it confirmed. The Vatican wasn't just containing dangerous demons. They were slowly killing them. Cell 89 held Sabnock, who appeared as a lion with the head of a man. He'd been captured in Spain during the Inquisition and had been chained in Vatican cells for over 400 years. "The long timer," I said, approaching his cell. Sabnock didn't respond immediately. He was staring at the wall with the fixed intensity of someone who'd been staring at walls for centuries. "Human," he finally said. "Demon. How long have you been doing this work?" 3 years. "I have been here for 412 years. Do you know what 400 years of imprisonment does to a mind?" "I'm guessing nothing good." "It clarifies things, strips away illusions. After the 1st century, you stop planning escape. After the 2nd century, you stop hoping for rescue. After the 3rd century, you begin to understand the true nature of existence, which is that suffering is the only constant. Everything else, pleasure, purpose, hope, is temporary distraction." I slid his tray through the slot. Sabnock ignored it. "The Vatican believes they are containing evil," he continued. "But evil is not something that can be contained. It is not a substance or entity. It is a relationship between power and powerlessness." Deep thoughts for breakfast time. I have nothing but time for thoughts, and my thoughts have led me to a conclusion about your work here. What's that? You are not feeding demons. You are maintaining torture devices. The elevator at the end of level 8 led down to level 9, which housed only 3 demons. These were the ones that required special handling, not because they were more violent than the others, but because they were more useful. Sister Catherine handled 2 of them. I handled Paimon. Paimon's cell was different from the others. Larger, better furnished, with actual books instead of empty shelves. He appeared as a man in his 30s wearing expensive clothes that somehow never got dirty despite 3 decades of imprisonment. "Vincent," he said warmly, as if I were a friend visiting for dinner. "Right on time." Morning, Paimon. I trust you're well? You look tired. Long night. Paimon accepted his tray, the same fake food as everyone else, but served on actual china instead of steel plates. He was a demon of information, and information demons received certain privileges in exchange for cooperation. I have something you might find interesting, Paimon said, settling into his reading chair. What's that? Your predecessor, Thomas Holloway. He didn't die of a heart attack. I stopped walking toward the elevator. What? The previous demon feeder. The Vatican told you he died of natural causes, yes? That's right. He was murdered by someone on the Vatican staff. Why would they kill their own employee? Because he'd learned too much about the research program, about what the Vatican really does with captured demons. Paimon took a sip of his coffee and smiled. Would you like to know what killed him? I looked at Paimon's cell, with its comfortable furniture and extensive library. Information demons received privileges because they provided valuable intelligence, but they also received privileges because they were the most dangerous ones to keep. They knew things. Rule 6, I said, backing toward the elevator. What's Rule 6, Vincent? Never trust anything a demon tells you. Paimon laughed. Very good. But consider this. If you can't trust demons and you can't trust the Vatican, who exactly can you trust? The elevator doors closed before I could answer. Back on ground level, I sat in the employee break room and smoked a cigarette while writing my daily report. 47 demons fed, no incidents, all containment protocols maintained. The same report I'd filed for 3 years. Father Morrison, my supervisor, reviewed the report and filed it in a cabinet that probably contained thousands of identical documents. Any problems today? He asked. Paimon mentioned my predecessor. Father Morrison looked up from his paperwork. What about him? Said he was murdered, not a heart attack. Demons lie, Vincent. It's what they do. Paimon also said the Vatican kills demons after studying them. Final exorcism, he called it. That's classified information. So it's true. Father Morrison closed the file cabinet and locked it. Vincent, you've been doing excellent work for 3 years. Don't complicate things by asking questions that don't have comfortable answers. What kind of research is the Vatican doing with these demons? The kind that keeps the world safe. Leave it at that. I finished my cigarette and headed home to my apartment 6 blocks from the Vatican. Small place, 1 bedroom, furnished with the kind of furniture you buy when you don't expect to live anywhere very long. I made dinner and watched television until midnight, then tried to sleep. But Paimon's words kept echoing in my mind. If you can't trust demons and you can't trust the Vatican, who exactly can you trust? Around 3 a.m, I got dressed and walked back to the facility. Night security was lighter than day security. 1 guard at the main entrance, 1 roving patrol, automated systems for everything else. I used my employee keycard to access the sub-basement levels. The demons were quiet at night. Most of them sat in their cells reading or staring at nothing. A few slept, which always looked wrong when you saw it happen. I took the elevator down to level 10. Level 10 wasn't supposed to exist. My keycard worked on the level 10 elevator, which meant either my security clearance was higher than I thought, or someone wanted me to find what was down there. The doors opened onto a corridor that looked different from the prison levels above. No cells, no feeding slots, no chains. Just a long hallway lined with laboratory doors and the kind of fluorescent lighting that makes everything look like a morgue. I walked past doors marked with numbers instead of names. Lab 1, Lab 2, Lab 3. Through the reinforced windows, I could see equipment I didn't recognize. Surgical tables, computers displaying vital signs, tanks filled with liquid that glowed faintly green. Lab 7 had no window. The door was marked Authorized Personnel Only in 3 languages. I tried my keycard. It worked. Inside was an operating theater. Not the kind where doctors save lives, but the kind where researchers take things apart to see how they work. The surgical table was stained with substances that weren't blood. Above it, cameras recorded everything from multiple angles. On a side table sat a metal tray containing what looked like organs, but organs that belonged to no earthly creature. They pulsed with their own rhythm and glowed the same green as the liquid in the tanks upstairs. A computer terminal showed patient records, not human patients. I scrolled through files labeled with familiar names. Belphegor, Marcosius, Sabnock. Each file contained detailed anatomical diagrams, surgical notes, and something called essence extraction protocols. According to the files, the Vatican wasn't just containing demons, they were harvesting them. Demon blood contained properties that enhanced psychic abilities in humans. Demon tissue could be processed into compounds that provided immunity to spiritual possession. Demon essence, properly refined, could power protective wards for centuries. The 47 demons chained in the levels above weren't prisoners, they were livestock. I heard footsteps in the corridor outside. I closed the computer files and hid behind a bank of equipment as someone entered the lab. Father Morrison walked in wearing surgical scrubs instead of his usual priest robes. Behind him came two people I didn't recognize, a woman in a lab coat and a man carrying what looked like a briefcase full of medical instruments. Subject 87 is scheduled for essence extraction this morning, Father Morrison said. Full procedure, then disposal. Marcosius. They were going to kill Marcosius. What about the feeder? The woman asked. Vincent has been asking questions. Vincent is becoming a problem. 3 years is longer than most feeders last before they start getting curious. Same solution as the previous feeder? Not yet. Vincent is more careful than his predecessor was. If he disappears too soon after asking questions, it might attract attention from outside the church. So what do we do? Father Morrison opened a cabinet and pulled out a vial of clear liquid. We help him have an accident, something stress-related, heart failure maybe, the kind of thing that happens to people who work too closely with demons for too long. The man with the briefcase nodded. When? After today's feeding rounds. We'll dose his coffee in the break room. They left to prepare for Marcosius's surgery. I waited until their footsteps faded, then slipped back into the corridor. The elevator to level 8 felt like it took forever. When the doors finally opened, I ran down the corridor to cell 87. Marcosius was pacing her cell, agitated about something. They're coming for you, I said. She stopped pacing and looked at me. What? Essence extraction. This morning, they're going to kill you. And you're telling me this why? Because I've been feeding you cardboard for 3 years and you deserve to know. Marcosius approached the feeding slot. Up close, her wolf features looked more human than they did from a distance, like a person wearing a convincing mask. Can you get me out? I don't know. Maybe. The chains are blessed steel. They can't be cut with ordinary tools. What about unblessed tools? That might work, but you'd need something strong enough to cut through steel. I thought about the surgical equipment in Lab 7, bone saws, plasma cutters, things designed to cut through supernatural materials. Stay here, I said. Where else would I go? I took the elevator back down to level 10 and returned to Lab 7. The surgical equipment was more advanced than anything I'd seen in a regular hospital. I found a plasma cutter designed for use on demonic anatomy and tested it on a spare piece of steel. It cut through the metal like butter. Back on level 8, I plugged the cutter into a wall outlet near Marcosius's cell and started working on her chains. The blessed steel sparked and hissed when the plasma touched it, but it cut cleanly. This is treason, Marcosius said as I worked. Probably. They'll kill you for this. They were going to kill me anyway. The first chain fell away from her wrist. She flexed her fingers, testing her range of motion. Why are you helping me? Because you were right yesterday. You're not evil. You're just powerful enough to be useful. The second chain came loose. Marcosius stepped away from the wall for the first time in decades. What's the plan after this? I haven't thought that far ahead. Well, start thinking. The moment I leave this cell, every alarm in the building is going to go off. I cut through the ankle chains and stepped back. Marcosius was free. Immediately, sirens began wailing throughout the facility. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Over the intercom, a voice announced, "Code Red, containment breach. All personnel to emergency stations." Now what? I asked. Now we run. Marcosius led the way toward the emergency stairwell. She moved with the fluid grace of a predator, but she wasn't attacking me. If anything, she seemed protective. "The exit is 12 floors up," she said. "Security will be concentrated around the elevators and main exits." "How do you know that?" "I've been planning this escape for 37 years. We climbed stairs 2 at a time. Behind us, I could hear shouting and the sound of boots on metal steps. Vatican security was mobilizing fast. "There's something else," I said as we climbed. "They're not just keeping demons prisoner, they're harvesting you, using demon blood and tissue for research." "I know." "You know? Where do you think the essence comes from when they perform final exorcisms? They drain us completely before destroying what's left." We reached the ground floor exit. Through the reinforced glass door, I could see Vatican guards positioned around the building perimeter. "They're expecting us to try the main exits," Marcosius said, "but there's another way." She led me back down to the basement levels, but not the prison levels. Storage areas, maintenance rooms, utility tunnels. Places I'd never seen in 3 years of working here. "Maintenance tunnel connects to the city sewer system," she explained. "From there, we can reach anywhere in Rome." "How do you know about maintenance tunnels?" "Demons are very good at learning the layout of their prisons." We found the tunnel entrance behind a locked door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." Marcosius ripped the lock off with her bare hands. The tunnel was dark, narrow, and smelled like decades of stagnant water. We crawled through it for what felt like hours before emerging into a larger sewer passage. "Where do we go now?" I asked. "Somewhere they won't look for us." "Where's that?" Marcosius smiled, showing teeth that were definitely not human. "Hell." "What?" "There are entrances to hell all over Rome, natural weak points between dimensions. The Vatican knows about most of them, but not all. You want to hide in hell? I want to go home, and you need somewhere to disappear until the Vatican stops looking for you. I can't survive in hell, not as a human, but I can change that." We walked through the sewers while Marcosius explained her plan. Demons could grant certain protections to humans who helped them, temporary transformations that would allow me to survive in hostile environments. "What's the catch?" "The transformation is unstable for humans. Without regular reinforcement, you'll start reverting to human form within weeks. And then? Then you either return to Earth as a human and spend the rest of your life hiding from the Vatican, or you let me complete the transformation and become a demon yourself." "What kind of demon?" "The kind that feeds other demons. We found the entrance to hell in a storm drain beneath the Colosseum. Not a dramatic portal or glowing doorway, just a section of tunnel where the walls looked slightly wrong and the air felt heavier than it should." "Last chance to change your mind," Marcosius said. I thought about Father Morrison planning to poison my coffee. I thought about 46 other demons chained in those cells, waiting to be harvested. I thought about 3 years of feeding cardboard to prisoners who were being slowly murdered for their blood. "Let's go." Marcosius placed her hand on my forehead and spoke words in a language that predated human speech. I felt something change inside me, like fundamental rules of biology being rewritten. My vision sharpened. My hearing became more acute. When I looked at my hands, the skin had taken on a gray tint and my fingernails had become claws. "Welcome to hell," Marcosius said. We stepped through the dimensional barrier and entered a world that looked like Rome, but not the Rome I knew. The buildings were older, stranger, built from materials that shouldn't exist. The sky was dark red instead of blue, and there were no stars. "This is the first circle," Marcosius explained. "Relatively safe, mostly populated by minor demons and lost souls who aren't dangerous to visitors." "What about the deeper circles?" "More dangerous, but also more interesting." We walked through the hellish version of Rome while Marcosius pointed out landmarks. The Pantheon was there, but built from black stone and housing entities that weren't gods. The Colosseum was larger, still in use, hosting contests between creatures that had never been human. "How many demons has the Vatican captured over the years?" I asked. "Hundreds, maybe thousands. They've been hunting us for centuries." "Why?" "Because we know things they want to know. Because our existence proves that their theology is incomplete, and because our bodies contain power they can use." We found lodging in a boarding house run by a demon who looked like an elderly Italian woman. She spoke English with a Brooklyn accent and charged reasonable rates for room and board. "How long are you planning to stay?" she asked. "A few weeks," I said. "Business or pleasure?" "Asylum." She nodded knowingly. "Lot of refugees from Earth these days. Vatican's been very aggressive lately." That evening, Marcosius and I sat in the boarding house common room discussing our options. My transformation was strong enough to survive in hell, but I'd need to decide soon whether to make it permanent or risk reverting to human form. "The other demons need to know what's happening," I said. "They already know. They just can't do anything about it." "What if they could?" "What do you mean? What if someone freed all of them at once?" Marcosius looked at me with something that might have been respect. "You're talking about a full-scale prison break. I'm talking about justice. Justice is a human concept. Demons prefer revenge. Would the other demons help if they were free?" "Oh yes, they'd help very enthusiastically." "Then that's what we do. We go back, free everyone, and let them take their revenge on the people who've been torturing them. The Vatican will fight back." "Let them." Marcosius smiled. "You're starting to think like a demon." "Good, because apparently, that's what I'm becoming." Over the next 2 weeks, we planned our assault on the Vatican's demon containment facility. Hell, it turned out, had resources that could be helpful. Weapons that worked on blessed steel. Allies who owed favors to imprisoned demons. Information about Vatican security protocols. The hardest part would be timing. We needed to free all 46 remaining demons simultaneously before security could respond effectively. "There's a shift change at midnight," I explained. 10 minutes when both security teams are in transition. That's our window. 10 minutes to free 46 demons? 10 minutes to start the process. Once a few are loose, they can help free the others. And after that? After that, we let justice take its course. Marcosius handed me a weapon that looked like a sword, but felt like controlled lightning. "Then let's go collect some debts." We returned to Earth through the same storm drain, emerging into Rome at 11:30 on a Tuesday night. The city was quiet, except for late tourists and delivery trucks making their rounds. My demonic transformation had progressed over the 2 weeks in hell. My senses were sharper, my strength had increased, and I could see in the dark without any trouble. But I still looked human enough to pass casual inspection. "Remember," Marcosius said as we approached the Vatican facility, "blessed weapons will hurt you now. Don't get shot by your former colleagues." Noted. The security guard at the main entrance was someone I recognized. Tommy Rossetti, a guy from Naples who'd been working Vatican security for 8 years. He waved when he saw me approaching. "Vincent? What are you doing here so late?" "Forgot my wallet in the break room." Tommy checked his log. "You're not scheduled tonight." "Just 5 minutes, in and out." He hesitated, then buzzed me through. Make it quick. I'm not supposed to let anyone in without authorization. I walked through the facility like I belonged there, which I did. 3 years of working here had taught me every corridor, every camera angle, every blind spot in the security system. Marcosius followed me, invisible to the cameras but visible to anyone who looked directly at her. The advantage of demonic abilities. They didn't show up on electronic surveillance. We took the elevator down to level 7 and started with Belphegor. "Vincent," he said when I appeared at his cell. "Working late tonight?" "Not exactly." I pulled out the plasma cutter. "Stand back." "What are you doing?" "Letting you go home." The blessed steel chains sparked and hissed as I cut through them. Belphegor stepped away from the wall and stretched muscles that hadn't moved freely in decades. "Why?" he asked. "Because keeping you chained up was wrong. Because the Vatican has been harvesting demons for research. Because everyone deserves a chance at freedom. Even demons? Especially demons." Belphegor nodded slowly. "Thank you. Thank me by helping free the others." We moved systematically through level 7, cutting chains and explaining the situation to confused demons. Most were grateful. A few were suspicious. All of them were angry when they learned about the harvesting program. "They've been farming us," said Asmodeus, flexing his newly freed hands. "Like cattle." "What do we do about it?" asked another demon whose name I'd never learned. "We give them a taste of their own medicine," Marcosius said. By the time we reached level 8, word had spread through the facility. Security alarms were going off, and armed guards were mobilizing throughout the building. "They know we're here," I said. "Good," said Marcosius. "Let them come." "What about Sister Catherine? She works the night shift on level 9. "She called in sick tonight," said Belphegor, who'd been monitoring Vatican communications. "Lucky for her." We freed the demons on level 8 in record time. Sabnok, the lion-headed demon who'd been imprisoned for 400 years, was particularly enthusiastic about getting revenge. "Where are the researchers?" he asked. "Level 10, labs and surgical suites." "Perfect." The demons scattered throughout the facility, some heading for the exits, others hunting for specific targets. I followed Marcosius down to level 9 to free Paimon. "Vincent," Paimon said calmly as I cut his chains, "I wondered when you'd figure it out." "You knew this was coming?" "I know many things, including the fact that you've been transformed into something that's no longer entirely human." "Does that bother you?" "Not at all. Humanity is overrated." Paimon stepped out of his cell and straightened his expensive clothes. "Now, shall we go collect Father Morrison? I have some questions for him about the research program." We found Father Morrison in Lab 7, along with the woman in the lab coat and several other researchers. They were trying to destroy computer files and research data before evacuating. "Vincent," Father Morrison said when he saw me, "thank God you're alive. The demons have broken out. We need to get you to safety." "I'm the one who freed them." His face went pale. "That's impossible. You were going to poison my coffee, kill me like you killed my predecessor, after 3 years of faithful service." "The work we do here is necessary. The research saves lives." "Whose lives?" "Everyone's lives. The compounds we derive from demon essence protect thousands of people from supernatural threats." Paimon stepped into the lab behind me. Father Morrison and the other researchers backed against the wall. "Father Morrison," Paimon said pleasantly, "we need to discuss your research methods. I won't tell you anything. You will. Eventually." Father Morrison pulled out a gun loaded with blessed silver bullets and fired at Paimon. The demon moved faster than human eyes could follow, catching the bullet in midair and crushing it between his fingers. "Blessed silver," Paimon observed. "How thoughtful, but you forget. I'm not just any demon. I'm a Duke of Hell. Your little weapons don't work on me." The other researchers tried to run. Marcosius appeared in the doorway and blocked their exit. "Going somewhere?" she asked. Please, the woman in the lab coat said. We were just following orders. So were the guards at Auschwitz, I said. Over the building's intercom system, someone was announcing evacuation procedures. But it was too late for an orderly withdrawal. The demons were loose and 40 years of suppressed rage was being released all at once. What's going to happen to them? I asked Paimon, gesturing toward the terrified researchers. Justice, of a sort. What does demonic justice look like? It depends on the crime. For torture and murder, usually something poetic. They'll experience what they put others through. Through the lab windows, I could see demons moving through the corridors. Some were heading for the exits, eager to return to hell or disappear into the human world. Others were hunting for Vatican personnel who'd been involved in the research program. What about the ones who weren't involved? I asked. Security guards, maintenance workers, people who didn't know about the harvesting. They'll be allowed to leave, Marcosius said. We're not interested in killing innocent people. How do you determine innocence? Demons can sense guilt, Paimon explained. It has a very distinctive smell. Father Morrison was backing toward a wall safe, probably trying to reach some kind of emergency weapon. Paimon caught his wrist and twisted until he dropped his gun. You don't understand, Father Morrison said. The demons are dangerous. They kill people. They possess children. They corrupt souls. Some do, Paimon agreed. Just like some humans are murderers, rapists, and torturers. Should we imprison all humans because a few are criminals? Demons are inherently evil. Are we? I've spent 30 years in your prison reading philosophy and literature. I've never killed anyone. I've never possessed a child. My only crime was existing in a form that your church considers threatening. You're lying. Demons can't lie about our fundamental nature. It's one of the rules that govern our existence. I'd been learning a lot about demonic rules during my week in hell. They were more complex than human laws, and in many ways, more ethical. What happens now? I asked. Now we leave, Marcosius said. The facility is finished. Word will spread about what the Vatican was doing here. Other supernatural entities will learn that humans can be held accountable for their crimes. And the Vatican? We'll have to find a new source of research materials, Paimon said, though I suspect they'll have difficulty recruiting volunteers. We left Father Morrison and the other researchers locked in Lab 7 while the demons finished their evacuation. By dawn, the facility was empty, except for a few Vatican security personnel who'd been deemed innocent of direct involvement in the harvesting program. The demons scattered across Rome and beyond. Some returned to hell through the various dimensional weak points around the city. Others disappeared into the human world, where they could live quietly without being hunted by the church. Marcosius and I walked through the streets of Rome as the sun came up over the ancient city. What will you do now? She asked. I don't know. My transformation is temporary. In a few months, I'll start reverting to human form. You could stay in hell permanently. Complete the transformation. What would that involve? Accepting that you're no longer human. Embracing your new nature. I thought about my 3 years of feeding demons, learning their stories, understanding their perspectives. I thought about the Vatican's research program and the casual cruelty with which they'd treated sentient beings. Would I still be me? You'd be a better version of yourself. Stronger, wiser, more capable of protecting people who need protection. People like demons? People like anyone who's powerless in the face of institutional authority. We found a cafe near the Pantheon and ordered coffee. The owner, an elderly Italian man, served us without comment despite my obviously non-human appearance. Romans had seen stranger things over the centuries. There's something I need to tell you, Marcosius said, about your predecessor. Vincent Holloway? He wasn't killed because he learned too much. He was killed because he refused to complete his transformation. He was offered the same choice I'm being offered? Yes. And when he tried to return to purely human form, the Vatican decided he was too much of a security risk. So they murdered him. Yes. I sipped my coffee and thought about choices. Stay human and spend the rest of my life hiding from the Vatican, or complete my transformation and become something that could protect others from the same fate. How long do I have to decide? The transformation is already becoming unstable. Without reinforcement, you'll start reverting to human form within days, but if you choose to complete it now, it becomes permanent. And if I choose to complete it, then you become a demon of justice, someone who protects the innocent and punishes the guilty. Are there others like that? More than you might think. Demons aren't the evil monsters your church claims we are. Most of us are simply beings who exist outside human understanding. I finished my coffee and made my decision. I'll do it. You're sure? The Vatican has been murdering sentient beings for centuries. Someone needs to stop them. It won't be easy. You'll be hunted. You'll be called evil. You'll be seen as a monster by people who think they're righteous. I've been called worse things. Marcosius smiled. Then welcome to the rebellion. We spent the next few days preparing for my full transformation. Hell, it turned out, had extensive resources for humans who chose to become demons. Training programs, support networks, even orientation materials. The process was immediate once I made the choice. Marcosius performed a ritual that completed what had been started during my initial transformation. My physical appearance changed permanently, but so did my perceptions, my understanding of morality, my sense of justice. Within hours, I barely remembered what it felt like to be human. The Vatican issued official statements about a terrorist attack on their research facility. They claimed that anti-Catholic extremists had released dangerous entities that posed a threat to public safety. The Italian government launched an investigation, but found no evidence of supernatural activity. Meanwhile, demons who'd been imprisoned for decades began reaching out to others who'd suffered under church authority. Stories spread through supernatural communities about the possibility of justice, of holding powerful institutions accountable for their crimes. I took on a new name and a new identity, Vincent Romano, defender of the powerless. The Vatican put me on their most wanted list, but I'd learned enough about their operations to stay ahead of their hunters. Sister Catherine, my former colleague, reached out to me 6 months after the breakout. She'd been reassigned to a monastery in Tibet after the facility closure, but had managed to send a message through supernatural channels. I knew something was wrong. Her message said, "I just didn't know how wrong. Thank you for stopping it." Some of the freed demons visited me occasionally, checking in or asking for advice about navigating the human world. Others sent word through mutual contacts about Vatican activities that might require intervention. The Church's supernatural research program wasn't ended by our actions, but it was severely disrupted. They could no longer rely on a steady supply of imprisoned demons, and word had spread through supernatural communities about the risks of being captured alive. 2 years after my transformation, I got word that the Vatican was planning to rebuild their containment facility in a new location. Father Morrison had been promoted and was overseeing construction of a more secure prison. I paid him a visit. He was living in a house in the Swiss countryside, surrounded by enough blessed silver and holy water to stock a small church. But blessed materials don't work against demons who've chosen to embrace their nature rather than fight it. "Vincent," he said when I appeared in his living room, "I wondered when you'd come for me. I'm not here to kill you. Then why are you here?" "To offer you the same choice you offered me. Join the program voluntarily or be volunteered." "What program?" "The new containment facility. You're going to be the first human test subject." Father Morrison reached for a gun loaded with blessed silver bullets. I let him shoot me 6 times before taking the weapon away. "Blessed silver doesn't work on volunteers," I explained. "We're not being forced to stay in this form. We chose it." "You've become a monster. I've become something that protects people from monsters." I carried Father Morrison to the new containment facility, which was still under construction in an abandoned monastery in the Alps. The holding cells weren't finished yet, but the research labs were fully operational. "You can't do this," he said, as I chained him to a surgical table with his own blessed steel restraints. "I'm human. So were the demons you tortured. Humanity isn't a protection against justice. The church will hunt you down. Let them try." I left Father Morrison in the care of several demons who'd volunteered to staff the new facility. They were much better at the job than the Vatican researchers had been, more ethical, more humane, more interested in actual justice than in exploitation. The church issued new warnings about supernatural threats and increased their recruitment of demon hunters. But they were fighting an enemy that understood their methods and had access to resources they couldn't imagine. 3 years later, I'm still doing the work, protecting people who can't protect themselves, holding powerful institutions accountable, making sure that justice applies equally to humans and demons alike. The Vatican still keeps some demons chained up in hidden facilities around the world. But now, there are demons watching those facilities, ready to intervene when necessary. It's not the life I expected when I took a job feeding demons in a basement. But it's the life I chose. And sometimes choosing to become a monster is the most human thing you can do.